Hello, Mechwarriors, and welcome to the Mechbay, where we fix your mech and fix your game. What's going on, Mechwarriors? I'm your host, Company Commander Josh, and I've got Lore Master Denham, and I paid for the whole ton of AC2 ammo. I'm going to use the whole ton of AC2 ammo. Dustin in the house tonight. What's going on, Mechwarriors?
Howdy, howdy.
How's it going, my warriors? Before we get started, I have to ask you, Josh, does this qualify as an indulgisode for you?
Correct.
Correct. All right.
As I actually overrode the original scripted content for this episode. I was like, nope, it's December. I just had in-laws over. I need a mental palate cleanser.
Yeah,
is it palate cleanser? Palate overdoser. There we go.
There you go. There you go. I feel like our longtime listeners will know that you like today's subject.
Oh,
You're kind of into it.
What are we talking about today, AC2 Dustin?
We're talking about all those things that are too cool, too fancy, and too dangerous and explodey for you, the regular Joe, to have. We're talking about experimental technologies.
That's right. We're talking about experimentals. Denham is shaking his head.
Well, I mean, like, I'm thinking, because back in my day, experimentals meant swords and PPC capacitors. So I'm excited to see what you think is experimental, or what is or is not experimental anymore.
Back in my day, Fireball was a type of whiskey and not a spell we cast at third level.
The Super Griffin was super because the sculpt was too big.
We cast Fireball at 5th level, right?
I don't know, but...
yes.
I've actually never played
It's a 3rd level spell that you get at 5th level.
Okay, that's why I knew it. Is that...
That doesn't make any sense. Is
it
that
does.
How D&D works?
I know the rules, not the mechanics.
Oh, okay.
Just like for experimentals. All right, but to get our hobby coolant flowing, let's talk about some hobby news, hobby progress, games played, and event calendar upcomings. So first, we've got some news to catch up on. Oh man, we had some shakeups with the Hammerhead coming out, which I was able to throw into the last episode with the missing limbs and such and forth. And apparently,
it's a distributor, right?
Yeah,
the warehouse.
The warehouse that Monster Fight Club uses did not pull all of the Mark I, quote unquote, Hammerheads out and, destroy them or hold them or do whatever until legal had time to,
ship
get
them
there.
to me.
Yeah.
They gave them to me.
There we go.
But yeah,
Master
so
Denham's like, I need all of these.
No, I ordered the Mark II and I got the Mark I's.
I see what you're saying. Yes, they did give them to you.
I wonder what the percentage is, and I know poor Chris at the Catalyst game team, Game Labs support team has responded to so many emails because I've seen them.
Well, I got the email that said my replacement is on its way, and if that one is also wrong, to let him know, and he will send yet another one. So,
how many times until they're quote unquote right, Denham?
Yeah, will I have a company before it's fixed? I don't know. We'll find out.
Is that a problem? Question. But that's the thing. Would you accept 2 regular Mark I Hammerheads for the price of 1, or would you prefer a Mark II with 2 sets of limbs?
If I had to choose between those, I would go with option number 2. Because I already have option number 1 now. Yeah, I will end up with 3, potentially at least 3 Hammerheads, maybe more if I keep getting bad ones.
So the techs kind of mixed up the bins down at the distributor, and so keep that in mind if you're ordering, I guess, and make sure you check that bad boy out and send an email if you need to get your Hammerhead situation fixed up. Yes.
So there was that. But now we have the Eris hitting people's, mech bays at home.
Give me that Cadillac.
Oh, I hate to say it, but we're also seeing issues with the Eris.
Really?
No.
Yeah. One of our Mechwarriors on the Discord did not have a torso.
Really?
So almost exact opposite of the Hammerheads. All arms and legs, no torso.
Don't need torso.
Well, technically no hip because that's a second piece. I should say that. But yeah,
Oh, okay.
still missing pieces.
I have never ordered a premium mech, and I'm feeling okay about that. But anyways, I don't want to gloat over here. I don't mean that maliciously. I'm just like, oh man.
Do we think that Monster Fight Club needs to slow down, even though they quote slowed down for all of the fall season from Mad Cat TC to now?
I don't know. I mean, I should have 2 Eris's on my doorstep sometime tomorrow, so I will let you know what mine look like.
I don't think the Eris issue is as widespread, but I have seen, an issue, and coming off of the Hammerhead widespread issue, I'm now paranoid. Like my paranoia is in full spread.
What's nice though is since I'm getting 2 Erises and I already have 2 of the Mark I Hammerheads, I should get 2 Hammerhead torsos, like one with each Eris, right?
Correct.
So I should have at least 3 nice Hammerheads.
What was the issue with the Hammerhead torso? Like the layer lines were pretty bad.
They considered it unfinished, is what they is what they said. But yeah, it was rough, like layer lines, etc.
Yeah,
it was. I mean, the problem was you couldn't really sand them well. Like they were.
No, they had to sand the master.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. Like the ones that came out were from a draft
print. It's a 3D print. Yeah.
So they were the draft mold. So they were not there was a finished mold being used, and there was a draft mold being used.
Yeah.
Which was the problem.
Yeah.
There were 2 different sets of 2 different varying levels of quality.
Oh. Surprising. Okay, so that's the Eris. What else do we have?
We have Wreck Guy 27 out.
A lot of vehicles in that one.
Lots of vehicles.
Did you have a favorite vehicle from that one, Denham?
No, not necessarily.
You don't like the galleon with its...
No, I mean, I didn't have a favorite
laser.
one. I like all of them, but...
he loves them all the same.
Oh,
yes.
They're all his favorite children.
They're all fun to blow up.
Yeah, we have a new light tank, kind of like a Scorpion-esque thing. Maybe even a replacement for the Scorpion. I'm guessing, like from a high level kind of view. But anyways, is it
with the Chemisori?
Yeah, the Chemisori. Lightly gunned and armored, but
a little light PPC
like
with a targeted
gun.
computer. Yeah.
Which is cool. I'm liking the sculpts as always. Which struck me.
You're going over the best part of this. It's an Omni 20-ton tank. That's 6'9".
Yes. So you can drop those little battle armors off.
They were like, this failed at being a tank, but you know what it's good at? Transporting battle armor, which is hard to do.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the B config has a supercharger, so it even goes faster.
Even faster. I just imagine that tank with the little, the hood. It's got the cutout in the hood, and you got the supercharger sticking out of it. It's got to get that instantaneous horsepower delivered straight to your drivetrain.
I like the one with the plasma cannon on it.
Yes, that's my favorite. I'm like, ooh, plasma cannon.
And it's got just enough ammo for your regular game, so I enjoy it. But my question is when you're driving the commissary around with the supercharger, do you put the Formula D song on, or do you put the Tokyo Drift song on? This is the only question that I want attached to this tank.
I'll throw out the Tokyo Drift song. That's what I'd put that on.
I didn't watch Tokyo Drift, nor do I know what the song is that you're talking about. So,
wow,
I would put on Slow Ride.
No,
on repeat.
But it's a 6'9". It's not Slow Ride.
Yeah, but you're taking it easy, man. You can go fast, but
next thing you're going to tell me Low Rider is an acceptable, exchange.
Yeah, I mean, you asked. As I burn a CD, because it's got a CD player in that bad boy, and it's 9 tracks. It's all the same track. It just repeats.
I need to play against Dustin a lot more for therapy reasons.
You need to beat some sense into this man. It's definitely Tokyo Drift for me. So that's 2 out of the 3 for Tokyo Drift.
There you go.
Formula D is good, but Tokyo Drift is better.
Did anybody else notice like the generic hover tank that showed up in there?
It's a hover tank Falcon, but it's got all kinds of different designations if you look in the back.
Right.
So it is just hover tank.
It's just hover tank. I don't know. I thought that was kind of weird and funny. There's a lot of
50-ton 914 hover tank.
Yeah. I was like, that's kind of like a Pegasus, but I don't know. Have they done the Pegasus yet? I don't think they have.
No, but they got to get to them soon.
I get it. But it's
because they've got Buzzard, Falcon, Hawk,
All the burbs
are the ones in there.
Yeah. But that one caught my eye because, it's new. The sculpt is cool, but it's also, I guess they were kind of calling it as it is. This is a hover tank. It hovers. It's got guns sometimes. Shoots.
All right, so now Alpha Strike Box hitting houses now.
That's right.
Yeah. Some people have it. Some people have 10 of them.
Wait, really? Oh my god.
No. People were reading. One of our listeners had
the
showed up their
1.0?
order form, and it said 1.0, and the point was hard to read on the picture. So people are like, "You bought 10 of those?"
I think they said they needed the Vindicators in them. Everyone laughed. P.S. There's no Vindicators in the Alpha Strike Box.
No.
It's the new thing is Pouncer and Wraiths.
That's right. Cool sculpts. I am just gonna wait for those to come on a secondary market, I guess. I have too much plastic already. I have a New Year's thing. I know it's early, and I'm not going to say it because I'll save that. But anyways, it's got to do with my New Year's. I already know what my New Year's resolution is going to be, so I'll need to complicate that with the Alpha Strike Box. I'll just say that.
I'm waiting for that to come out to my local store because I want to support them.
Support the LGS, baby.
But that's the only reason why I don't have one yet.
Southern Assault 2 debuted the Death Ray Designs Alpha Strike tokens, and I think this is like a second set that they've done. If you're looking for them, they're called markers, not tokens. If you put Alpha Strike tokens into the Fortress Miniatures and Games website, you will not find them. They're markers. But anyways, I love these. I think, did you like them, Josh? Did you use them? They're great.
I love them because they have C3, ECM, NARC. I'm just like, hey, all those little things that you have to remember and write on your sheet. Boom, you just put it next to the mech. The dice that we put next to our mech.
Yep, I'm happy about that. I like it. And I like that they're different colors, so...
You pick your favorite color. So those are out. That was news for me because I was like, when can I buy these? And I was like, I can't buy them yet. So
you're like, I have one. You have one, but I need more. I need all the colors.
I do. I ran out. I try to remember which token it was, but I ran out of infantry mounted. Because I was spamming infantry mounts, but that's kind of
one thing that you didn't preference. These are the Alpha Strike tokens.
Right.
They already had ones for Classic.
Right, and these are specifically for
Alpha Strike.
Like MP crit and other engine hit, which I guess is. Anyways, yes.
There is some carryover, but it's
a little crossover.
Things like that, like battle armor mounted kind of things. Which almost you should buy just for that one because the number of times I'm like, which mech has the battle armor on it?
Mm-hmm. I forgot.
P.S. The Dasher is flat on top, so you can literally sit your battle armor on it. I've seen it. I hate it, but that's why it's flat.
I think the Adder would be good for that, too. It's pretty flat.
Yeah, Adder's too slow, though.
That's true. It's not the battle armor tax.
New Mechbay rule. You can only mount battle armor if you can literally mount the battle armor.
That's right. Got to build a support structure on that mini if you want to actually use it that way.
No.
Let's move on to some hobby progress. Justin, you've been working a lot, so I'm going to let you lead off on this one.
Man, what have I... Okay, so...
What have I done, you say?
Did a lot. I painted my 5 Scarab Occult Terminators because I was playing some Warhammer with my brother. So that doubles as games played. I've been printing and painting some new Thunderhead stuff. New to me. They've been out for a while. It's the Industrial Power Complex, and it is scale ambiguous. So I printed it up because I am playing a new game, which I will cover in Games Played. It will double well for Alpha Strike. So I'll be able to use it in both. Use it for Alpha Strike, use it for 28, 32 millimeter miniature stuff. Yeah, I'm kind of switching up my 3D terrain philosophy. No more 3D terrain in Classic. Only in Alpha Strike. I've made that decision now. And I printed some other stuff, painted some, whatever. That's enough hobby progress. How about you guys?
What? That's enough hobby progress? You don't paint 6 months out of the year.
Sometimes. Most of the times I'm doing a little bit of painting, but yes, the hobby machine is going right now. That's definitely a truth.
I mean, some people like to hear about what we actually do for hobby-wise. Denham, what have you gotten done hobby progress-wise lately?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely got games played, but hobby progress has been slow this month.
Now, this is a podcast, so you guys can't see this, but there's a box of stuff behind you, Denham. And technically, if you're on the Mechbay Discord, you know that buying stuff counts as hobby progress. So
but did he buy that? He didn't buy that.
I didn't buy that.
Buy it.
Do you remember the Trevor project?
I do.
The giveaway.
Yeah.
Well, one of our listeners, the Dan, actually had also signed up for that, and he won.
Oh, nice.
Right. Yeah. He made a donation for a friend of his, Ashley, and he won. But he figured that I could use the mechs more, so he sent them to me. And there is a bushwhacker and an axeman in there, and I am going to paint them up as the cartoon colors because I want to.
Yeah.
A whole set of the cartoon. A whole set of the cartoon guys. I think the only one we're missing is the Mauler for a new sculpt, but I think that's coming out with the mercenaries. But yeah, I'm just going to do a whole diorama with the cartoon colors.
I don't think it should surprise anybody, but the Mauler is one of my faves.
No way. 4 AC2s. No way.
Cool.
So yeah, that just arrived yesterday. So I'm excited about starting on those. I got an extra Shylone in there too.
Ooh.
I'm happy to see that.
Wow,
I didn't know that was going to be in there.
We can finally do aerospace.
I have my.
That'll be my third Shylone, so I'm happy about that. I got a wing and a half.
I got one.
If I told you guys that aerospace has been requested by multiple people, you would be.
But how about you, Josh?
Okay.
Any hobby progress from you?
Technically, because this is a post-Thanksgiving recording and uploading.
Yeah.
The in-laws came over, so they stayed in my literally hobby progress area.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we did this last year. I mean, you're going to continually hear this. They stayed over in the hobby space, so I had to pack up and clean and hide all of my hobby stuff. So
you should be proud of your hobby stuff. Don't hide it.
Don't hide it. Let the world see you.
That's
for
right.
Who you are. I mean, I do.
From the rooftops.
I mean, I made sure the Ares Super Heavy was like on the table, like rotated towards them, so they would have to look at it.
Most of his hobby stuff.
Yes. Once again, our listeners couldn't see, but Josh's wife was given the. Are you kidding me? Eyes. You cleaned up what? How much? Roasted.
Oops.
But you didn't do nothing because
no, but
some pictures today.
I was like cleaning it up and then uncleaning it so it's back out so I can work on it. Is like a solid week before and week after project. But today I'm working through the backlog, which is always my post-Thanksgiving thing, and I've assembled 5 one-page rules space lizards.
Starian something hosts.
Copyright free Seraphon / Lizardman.
There you go, Saurian Star Hosts. I think that's their name.
That sounds about right.
Lizards
They're
with
Lizardman
guns.
Overlords. Does that make them some sort of a Comstar offshoot? You know,
Probably. I mean, Dustin has painted and put it on the Discord, and everyone was like, "Wow, that's a sick blue-green fade." And I was like, "I know how to do sick blue-green fades. I can do this too."
Those models are dank. I'm definitely proxying them as breachers, and they're just generic sci-fi lizard gun people.
Yeah, they're so cool. Like I don't care what universe you're from. Those are cool models.
Yeah, lizards with guns, cool.
So that is my literally only physical.
but the holidays are rough for that sort of thing, especially if you've got visitors.
Yes.
Family. So yeah. So I've assembled. All right, let's move on to some games played. Because I've gotten a lot of games in. I'll admit that. I've gotten 3 games in.
Ooh,
Nice.
Yeah. So what have you gotten in?
Yeah.
Start
what
with you.
Classic, Alpha
What?
Strike. What you got?
No, we just went to me. Nobody wants to listen to me back to back. I'm kidding. I got a 10K classic game in, Snow Ravens versus generic pirates. And that was in Ill-Clan era. That was a fun game. I got to take the new Warcrow, Carrion Crow out.
Nice.
Give those guys a spin, and I got to play my Omen and some airy. I want to call them battle armor, but they're not. They're power armor.
Did you get to bring in any aerospace or warship units?
No, we didn't bid those. We wanted to be nice.
Yeah. Is this the famous game where a cudgel did
Yes.
64 points of damage?
Can you walk us through that?
My Omen, my Clan Snow Raven assault mech was
Just minding its own business.
minding its own business, on the battlefield. Wasn't doing anything to nobody. And a cudgel comes running up, and mental note, cudgels are fast.
Mental note.
80-ton assault mech. Oh Lord, he coming.
Was it like a charge with mask or something?
No, it's just he's got the mace in one hand and a claw in the other.
It's a 5.8, right? So it's
It's a 5.8. He's got
charger
TSM.
profile. Yeah.
TSM. Okay, that helps.
So double that, and then mace to the center torso and claw to the center torso.
That's rough.
This kills the Omen. To be fair, it did after regular damage was done, it did it to exactly the one last bubble of structure. There was no overspill.
Oh, wow.
It was perfect application of damage.
Yeah.
Nice.
But that was a fun game. I got to use Pharaoh Lamellar a
Ooh.
lot, and not gonna
That's
lie,
nice.
reducing damage by 1 for every 5-point cluster is so
Right?
nice.
No, that is good. It's
That's
very
so
good.
Oh my god, it's so expensive BV wise though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's just too good.
I wouldn't say it's too good because once
I meant
one,
that in
one
the,
big
in
hit,
the,
yeah.
But it's good. I mean, there are a lot of weapons in BattleTech that do somewhere between 3 and 8 damage, and -1 from all of those. That's good. It's good.
LBXs, SRMs.
So many. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Hyper Assault Gauss Rifles, all in clusters of 5. ATMs, all in clusters of 5. I mean, that's a fifth of the damage.
No,
Yeah.
it was great. The other highlight is that was me testing out PPC capacitors for the first heavy time, and I got a perfect maneuver where Carrion Crow is in the front of the mech and the War Crow is in the back of it, and both of them had charged up and the previous turn and then fired, and both hit front center torso, and then the other one hit rear center torso. So it was 20 damage to the front, 20 damage to the back, and he's like, oh god, please never again.
Please stop.
It's like, we are attempting donut maneuver. Please do not resist. But that was a fun game. I did not mean that in one phase, but
When I read it on the Discord, it sounded like it was. That's why I said, can you tell me this story?
yeah.
I just wanted to see what was going on.
Ah.
You can lead with why Josh sounds wrong.
I just wanted to make sure.
You're fine. You cannot mace and claw in the same physical attack phase. This was in 2 separate phases, but both turns it worked out that he just hit the center torso both times. I did another game with some Comstar versus Clan Burrock, and that was a fun game. Tried some C3I versus clans. Mental note, I'm starting to lean towards C3I is not perfect against clans as much as you would think.
Mm-hmm.
My main issues that I learned in that game were for the full 6 level 2 that I took, I could have just upgraded everyone to 3-4 pilots
Yeah.
and been probably just as happy, if not more happy, than range,
Short-range
shenanigans.
stuff. Yeah.
I think C3 and C3I leads more towards what's the word I'm looking for? Not what I would call a fair fight at all. Like you need to find those crazy maneuvers to really pull them off that that aren't a fair fight at all. Like you've really got to take advantage of.
Got to leverage the technology.
Sort of, yeah.
Okay.
You got to fight dirty.
Yeah,
That's what
there
I'm
you go.
saying.
That's what you got to fight super dirty
Hit
to
those
really take
clanners
advantage
below
of
the
it.
belt.
Yeah.
No, I mean that's exactly why. And my opponent Noah was smart. He took and he was like, "Bro, you ignore range modifiers. I'm just going to fight every single of your mechs at range 0.
Yeah.
I'm clan. I don't need short range, but you need short range." So I got out damaged. There was even trade, but it was there was no point where I felt the C3I was significantly a benefit than me just upgrading my piloting and gunnery 1.
Yeah.
Because, for 32%, I can get better pilots and gunnery. And
It's a lot of BV. It's a lot of BV.
30%, I can get an entire C3I level 2. Yeah, no, it was definitely one of those, like, is this really worth it? I'm leaning towards no. And then I did a Alpha Strike teaching game with 3 other players, and that reminded me of why I hate multiplayer games in general.
Was that a 2v2 or a 1v1v1?
2v2.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you guys ever played a multiplayer Alpha Strike game?
Nope.
Not Alpha Strike. I played Classic.
Yeah, I've done plenty of multi-team and Classic.
That's what I thought. I was like, this one felt not as fun as a Classic multiplayer. I don't know why.
I have no experience with it, so
that's fine. We won't dwell on that. But that's a lot for me. So, Dustin, let's get some you in, because I know you like to play BattleTech.
Yeah. So, hey, listen, you bring people to watch my children to my house. You bring your battle mechs to my house, and I'll play BattleTech with you. So anyways, we went on vacation, and I got some more 40K games in with my brother, my little brother, who is bigger than me. We've talked about this before. Hence, painting the Scarab Occult Terminators. I also played some Space Station Zero. Several games. It is single-player sci-fi miniatures skirmish game. It's kind of fast, hard-hitting, bloody sort of thing, and it's fun. I've played 5 parsecs, and I've played Space Station Zero. And 5 parsecs, I can say now I can give more than a hot take, because I've played like 4 rounds on Space Station Zero and probably 5 or 6 with 5 parsecs. 5 parsecs is better for forging your narrative, and it's got all the random roll tables that you would love to see. Space Station Zero is like a choose your own adventure style thing where you're going from one scripted mission to the next. So take your pick based on that. But yeah, those are the games that I played.
When am I going to get my solo BattleTech RPG?
It's, where there's a hole in the market, we got to write it up and sell it. If we want it, that means other people want it. So time to start writing.
Nobody wants to play with themselves.
I have found in my life, Dustin, that is not always the case. If I want something, that does not mean that there are other people who want it.
Nobody wanted this podcast at all.
I will sell my solo BattleTech rules to 4 people.
I'll be one of them.
But no, sounds like you had a fun time, playing with yourself at home.
I played a couple of the games. Actually, at this point, the majority of the games I've let my son kind of make some decisions, which has been detrimental to my crew. Some people have been dying, but we're having some good father-son time. So
nice.
It's going to charge the not melee specialist into all the mutants. Are you sure you want to do that? Yeah. All right. Let's see how it goes. Oh, he died. Okay.
He'll learn tactics eventually. He's still dealing with just clicky clack happy feelings.
That's right. And roll the dice. And it is, yeah, it's like raw feelings from children. You roll the dice and they're like, what happened? You're like, you hit him or you didn't get hit. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, ride the high, kid.
It doesn't stop.
Yeah, it's good. All right. Let's see. Did we do you, Denham? What kind of
Nope. We
kind
didn't.
of games have you played?
Yeah, I mean, I got my normal Tuesday night games over at the local store,
Nice.
which I do every week. But one of the nights during the week, I came home and my daughter comes to me and says, "Hey, Dad, do you want to play BattleTech?" My
Ooh.
first thought is, "What did you do?"
What did you break?
The problem is I know what you did break.
Now, this was after that. This was very
Oh,
much after.
okay.
Yep, she had some car issues, but this has nothing to do with that. She was just in the mood.
I'm sorry.
to roll
It
some
had
dice.
nothing to do with that, he says.
Yeah. Well, she normally, would come with me on the Tuesday night thing, and her job, she's scheduled for that. So she hasn't been there in months. So she was just, just missing rolling some dice. So we did. We played a nice, fun little game. Took about 2 hours. Some good father-daughter time. I won, of course, because I don't go easy on my kids. But
Gotta beat him down.
But it was fun. Yeah.
Awesome.
I can't use my you come into my house because
Hey, I live here
miles.
too. So I probably got 4 or 5 games in the last 2 weeks.
that's a lot of games. But that's your normal amount of games.
That's my normal amount of games.
So I know this is your favorite thing that I do, Josh, but I have a bit of a non sequitur here.
I've got one too. How about that?
Hey, there we go. I have recently heard, again, this is usual complaint with BattleTech, that it takes forever to play. And so somebody was complaining about how it took them 4 hours to get through a game. And I want to, I don't know, time or record or some combination of the two, like two people playing a Battle Mech manual level game with two lances, maybe even with like a little, what are those little chess clocks? 10 seconds per
Literally
movement or
chess
whatever.
clocks. That's literally what they're called. Yes.
Yeah, chess clock. And I think you could do a game lance on lance, 6,000, 5,000 battle value, whatever. I think you can do it in like an hour and a half.
I was about to say, bro, I could do one in 90 minutes. And then my brain
how much
calculated what an hour and a half is.
But how much fun would both people have? I think it would be a lot of fun. I know other people that is not what they play BattleTech for. Like they're playing like
to get out of the
super
house.
chess.
Yeah.
And I'm playing speed chess, and it's just two different mindsets. Like they want to make the perfect move every turn, and I'd rather make a move. And there are some problems. Are you fast enough to take advantage of any mistakes that a person makes?
Exactly.
Do you even notice the mistakes? Because playing at that speed, there's gonna be mistakes. But if you take half an hour per move, then it's can I make the perfect move for that turn?
Usually I try to split the difference, but war is messy. You're supposed to make mistakes, be out of position and stuff like that. So anyways, so that was my non sequitur. How about yours, Josh?
Mine adds on to that because I was mentally linked to your, direct neural interface.
We've got we're plugged in.
During my, Comstar versus Clan Burrock game, the two people behind me were doing an intro game, and they took like 4 hours to do, their 1v1, while me and my opponent got a 6v5 plus battle armor in.
Right.
I was like, man. And I look over, and it's the ShadowHawk versus the Wolverine match. And I'm like, no, stop. Both of these jump. One of these doesn't have enough weapons to hurt the other one. And the other one has enough weapons, but they don't hit when they jump. And I was like,
the ShadowHawk doesn't die ever.
Yeah.
Which is weird because it has ammo in all three torso locations.
That's called, wanting to die.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I'm aware.
And then they finished their game and it's like, man, that took a really long time. Said the newer guy. And I mean, the one guy was like brand new. The other guy was 10 years out getting back in. And I was like,
okay.
And at that point I realized, because I didn't want to like interject too much in case of rules questions, but I was like, next time just do 3-4, please. And don't take Mexican jump. Like jumping slows it down because you're going to jump and he's going to jump and y'all are going to hit 3 dice rolls less.
Oh yeah, because if you're starting off with a 4-5 and you jump, then your base is a 7 to hit, like without any other anything.
Yeah,
it's a 7.
I think it's what's not clear to people who are beginning to play. Like if you're introducing somebody to 40K, you're like, don't play stratagems, don't play secondaries, don't play any of the extra crap. Just roll the stat lines. What that is in BattleTech is just like dropping the skill levels and making the mechs kind of slow. So that's not apparent. Like, yes, you want to drop the extra technology and stuff, but
the returning vet literally said once it's like go 3-4 and don't jump, and he's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm just so used to that's how you start, and I'm like, no, that's the problem.
Yeah. So, but we're getting there. I think the Vindicator is a step in the right direction. And
Vindicator jumps too.
But it's so slow.
It's a slow boy.
Now in the box set, it is the only one that starts at skill level 3. Like its default is 3, everyone else's is 4.
Okay.
So that's how they balance it up against the Griffin, is that they make the Vindicator a 3 and the Griffin a 4.
Okay.
Why though? They both have a similar loadout.
No, the Vindicator is a lighter mech that's very slow, and because it's slower than the Griffin, it's lighter than the Griffin, it has less armor than the Griffin, and the BV value lines up at a skill 3 versus skill 4 better.
Really? Okay. Yep. I hadn't done the math, but I didn't. I guess
as soon as I got my box, I came out and opened up Mega Mech and opened them up.
I guess I hadn't realized Vindicator is so much worse than the Griffin in that
Yeah.
regard, like 10% worse.
They're moving into the 464 bracket. It puts it in a totally different. It's not even a skirmisher
Yeah,
anymore.
you can't
It's
jump
fire
for
support.
a modifier of 3 anymore.
Yeah,
That'll mess with your BV a lot.
that'll
Yeah.
do it.
Alrighty.
All right, big tangent there.
No, you're fine. We're 40 minutes in. Why not, go bigger? We have some fan mail to read, and this is from Shane
Ooh.
Haas, and he says, "Greetings, Mechbay crew. I recently
Greetings.
purchased another beginner box. Hey, just as like we were talking about, as part of the Humble Bundle deal. I'm wanting to have it as something to give away to help generate interest in the game. The challenge is, how should I give it away? Should I wait to give it to someone who shows interest at the game store, because kids have showed interest in the past, or donate to like a charity like Toys for Tots or something else? Thanks for all you do. Looking forward to the next podcast." Thanks, Shane.
Every year I get a couple beginner boxes and a couple D&D starter sets and give them to Toys for Tots because
Recruit the
you know,
nerds.
yeah, they're all great for kids who don't have much, and then they get something like that they can play with friends. Like one box can keep a whole group of kids entertained for a long time.
It's a lot of
So,
mileage.
Spread that out.
The big question, because you want to know what to do. Do you want it to be anonymous or not? That's really what it comes down to.
True.
I personally would just feel better just dropping it off into a box and imagining it's going to like a needy mech warrior. There's no emotions or anything attached. You're just being the good,
Right.
mech warrior.
Yep. Just
If you
good
know-
feelings.
I would say if you know a family or, children that might not have a lot, you could give it directly to them. I wouldn't say give it to a random kid at the game store unless you know if they're needy for an Alpha Strike box set. But that's just me. Dustin, thoughts?
That's a tough decision because,
This is the ethical, moral decision.
well, we think about our lives and the little tiny things that happen in our lives that change the course of our lives. Like, wow, if I had not made this one little decision, if I had not downloaded that game in 2018 that made me just want to play Battletech or play Mechwarrior game, and then I would have never found out that there was a board game attached to it, and I wouldn't be a war gamer now. So yeah, I mean, do you give it to the targeted thing? So the question is, do you donate it to like Toys for Tots or whatever, or do you give it to a particular person? It's a tough call. Both are good, obviously.
I say it's $20. Do both.
There you go. Problem solved.
We've got one of those little library boxes in our neighborhood where people just drop books off. I drop a big Eder box over there,
There
and
you
then
go.
it disappears. And I'm like, yay.
Man, that's next level right there. That's Denham's over there pulling the lever on the trolley and sending the next one down the line. Kill them all.
All right. I think it's a good time to take a break and realign the HBG. And after that, we'll come back talking about all the things that we're not legally allowed to use.
Yeah, but do anyway.
Grillers Gone Wild is proud to announce their newest partnership with the Lyran Commonwealth Tech Division to bring you the new ER Flammenwerfer. Now, with the hottest plasma torch containment technology and new miniaturized nozzles, you can verf flammens on all those pesky infantry blobs to your heart's content. So come on down to see the hottest commercial grills to the most combat-effective war crime weapons on the battlefield. Whether you're cooking turkeys with the techs or roasting falcons on the field, Grillers Gone Wild has all the tech to make you sweat.
All right, and we are back. And today, of all the days, Mechwarriors, we are talking about the experimental designation.
Bum bum bum.
I had the John Cena intro for the last episode. I don't know what could be better for this one.
All
But
right.
yeah, experimental. And something so near and dear. But what does it mean, though? What is
But what
experimental?
is it?
Lean?
When you look
Apparently
inward-
nothing, because I've been looking at all my old experimental tech and none of it is. Some of it's advanced, but most of it's just standard now. So
Oh, God.
I don't know anymore what experimental means.
Dustin, what does experimental mean to you?
Experimental is all the fun stuff I don't bring to a pickup game. That's what experimental means to me.
Are your games getting done too fast, Dustin? Well, let me tell you.
Do you need to slow your games down? We have one simple trick for you. To add at least an hour to your BattleTech game.
At least an hour explaining to everybody what the weird rules are for this tech. Yeah,
That's right. I have a whole story about this that we're going to cover later. So that is why when you ask me that question, what is experimental to you, Dustin? And I say everything that's not in the Battle Mech manual. Oh, that's a hot take. Anyways, we can unpack that a little more later. That's my spicy hot take. So, but that's not actually what experimental is. Don't at me. Is that how you say it, Josh?
Right. Isn't it like Battle Mech manual is standard tech, right? It's not even advanced tech.
Correct.
So yeah, so there's a lot of things that aren't in the Battle Mech manual that are just advanced and not experimental. So your definition sucks.
I know. And there are even things that are in the Battle Mech manual that I think are still experimental by designation. And it depends. Are you talking about in-universe experiment? Are you talking to your acquisition representative and your mercenary command? What's that guy called? That's not the right word.
Quartermaster.
Your yeah. And ask, and do you need to reference the table in the back of the campaign operations book that says it's experimental or not? I have a totally different definition because I'm just talking about rolling dice. And that's the thing about experimentals.
So what exactly does experimental mean in BattleTech? Well, normally experimental level equipment or mechs or units have yet to reach mass production in the BattleTech universe because whether it be being prohibitively expensive, because, I'm not buying compact HPG generators for all of my mechs because I can.
Yeah, but you're buying extra lights for all of your Greyhounds.
One of those is better than the other.
That's right.
They're extraordinarily sophisticated because everyone knows how to repair that extra light engine.
So is experimental designation reliant on the current era of what, like the BattleTech novels at this moment?
So the short answer is yes. If you are playing in 3025, there are going to be things that are experimental that are definitely not experimental.
The Hatchet.
Like the Hatchet. Or the Hatchetman, or the Raven with its ECM, right? Because
it wasn't even ECM, quote unquote, at the start. It was just electronic warfare equipment.
Yeah, and it weighed more and
less range, 3 hexes.
That's right.
It got better.
So yeah, from that perspective, it absolutely changes depending on what era you're in.
But since the current Battle Mech manual is written right at the Ill Clan, the intro to the Ill Clan, is that the official designation now? So if we were to say what's official or what's not official, because if you're just going by era, it's just like, I don't know. It depends on the game we're playing.
What do you mean by official?
I mean, if someone were to come to you and say, hey, is this experimental or is it not?
So the problem with defining experimental is it is based on the year of production, the advanced level of the rules, and whether it's lore complexity, I want to say, is the third one.
So if I came to you and said, hey, Josh, I've just started playing this game and somebody's got this PPC capacitor, is this experimental?
I feel like experimental's over in the corner going, you can't put me in a box, Dad.
Alternate title for the episode. Would a PPC capacitor be experimental? I would say no. But then I ask what year you're playing at, if you're even playing in a year. Because if you're not playing in a year, it don't matter.
So my answer to that question, because I'm always going to circle back to my hot take, is that the PPC capacitor is not experimental because it's in the Battle Mech manual, which that answer isn't always right. It's right for me. The Battle Mech manual is like the pedestal. It sits above. And for what what BattleTech is all distilled down as much as Catalyst could do, right? Because this is what we're talking about right now. This whole conversation is obviously not new. And it obviously befuddles anybody who, any poor Dustin who gets into BattleTech in 2018 and is like, what? I don't even know where to begin. There's 35 years of stuff and what is what. So the answer to that question for me, ended up being the Battle Mech manual. I had people back then kind of point me in that direction. So yeah, when you ask me, are PPC capacitors experimental? I'll say no. They're in the back of the book. The little thin one.
I'm gonna say Denham just gave us a trick question, and he's a dick.
I've been accused of that before.
I've played you. I know how you are.
So we've got Dustin's answer, which is Battle Mech manual. We've got do we have an answer from you?
So we have to define there are 3 levels of rules. There's standard, there's advanced, and then there's experimental. Standard is now Battle Mech manual. And that is from a reference point of Ilclan, which is, quote, modern Battletech. So if it's in the Battle Mech manual, it is not experimental, nor is it advanced.
That is correct.
So from the perspective of the Battle Mech manual, Ilclan standard is supposed to be the Battle Mech manual. It's supposed to be rules-wise, because we have our 3 layers. We have Battle Mech manual, we have Total Warfare, which is still tournament legal, but with all the combined arms stuff. And then you have everything else. That's all the other books that goes on top. But I still feel like that's a trick question, because all the stuff in total, tactical operations and strategic operations, I don't think all of that stuff is experimental by default, right?
No. A lot of stuff in tactical operations is advanced, and some is experimental, I think. And most of this stuff in interstellar operations is considered experimental, but some of it is now advanced. And then you've got all the other lots of different source books that are out there that have different things that they keep changing based on the era.
It's a mess. I'm going to be honest. It's a mess. As someone who loves experimental as a concept, like not even me looking at rules for things, it's like, I just love the idea that there are some things that are too complicated for somebody's small, smooth koala brain out there. That's an Australian Battletech reference if you're not with the picture.
And I'm sure that you've had it happen, Josh, where you've picked a mech that is dubbed experimental, but you can find no real actual reason why it's experimental, because none of its tech is experimental.
I mean, I'm the guy who has a lance of 2 Super Wasp, a Super Griffin, and a Super Marauder.
And what about those is experimental?
Technically, the heat sinks are corrosive. The jump jets are explosive. And the Marauder just has blazers.
Yeah. So I feel like what we're kind of teasing out here, and what we're kind of getting to the core of, is there's, so far that I've been able to discern, because Battletech is hard to do that with sometimes, there are kind of 2 definitions of experimental. There is the in-universe lore conscious version of experimental. And then there is the other definition that is a rules conscious definition of experimental. And I feel like the lines are blurred sometimes, even within the because you have the master unit list where some things are experimental from an in-universe perspective.
Yeah, like the blazers in the Battle Mech manual.
Exactly. And then you have, so me, because I think that it would be all a lot more simpler. That's great English.
You look scared saying this. Like, I'm looking at your camera and you just look like Randall or Ray is just going to hop out of your closet and take you out before you can get the words out of your mouth.
Well, because I know there are Battletech's fiction is deep, vast.
You're about to insult somebody's holy Bible of Blake.
And I'm going to insult you and just say that when it comes to rolling the dice, experimental should be strictly based on the rule books. I don't care about the era, because there are lots of eras. I don't care about the perspective of Ilclan or whether or not the thing was too complicated in universe. But I'm over here like, bro, if I have to go to tactical or strategic operations or whatever books that they've been split into and look it up, it's experimental.
Hey, Dustin.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you, but don't tell anyone, especially Josh. Like, that's how I feel it should happen. I really do.
Josh, are you going to dissent?
Deep down, if I know the rules and I have the rule book, then I should be allowed to use it wherever I want. This is some Second Amendment stuff.
It was written.
There's no
It is
law
my
that
right.
says I can't walk into a McDonald's with 5 land air mechs.
This is America. I'm going to bring my lambs into McDonald's. All right.
But that's the problem. To me, there is no more looking up that my jump jets explode for this mech than knowing what regular jump jets do. That is always on the player to know what they have does.
Yeah.
And if they can convey that in a quick and simple manner to the person, because you don't know what every mech does just from like a standard to advanced rules level.
Right.
I look forward every time I play you, Josh, to getting that PowerPoint presentation in a printed format handed to me in a binder so I can go over all of your cool tech. Because I remember playing a force that you're like, oh yeah, here, this is balanced. I'll just give you this force. And it had like some mech who doubled all the heat for movement or something like that.
Oh,
I wasn't told that it did that, but it did. So yeah, if I didn't get the instruction manual to go with the lance,
But-
I remember that to this day.
That entire lance was battle mech manual, modern battle tech, legal, standard. Like there was nothing fancy about that.
Oh, sweet.
So is there really a difference in me taking that with, ATMs, XXLs, coolant pods, all of that versus me taking
In LAM? Yeah, there is.
you got me there.
All right.
But maybe something like a blue shield particle field dampener or experimental double heat sinks or experimental or like laser insulators, things like that. Things like
There has to be some sort of organization to it.
I agree.
And I'm thankful every day that I am not in charge of those decisions.
Yeah, right.
So what they do is there's a dartboard, and
Yeah.
each little section has a technology that was made in the 30s, 70s, and they throw a dart every year. And it's like that one gets to come out of purgatory.
And when they throw the blue shield particle field dampener dart, it always lands in experimental, right?
It always lands in experimental. I will say, I did ask the MUL gods that be, and they said the Master Unit List uses tech progression as outlined through various distinct products. So even they are using, this is experimental here, and then X years later it will not be experimental due to production runs. And then for those weird things that is like, this is always experimental because it has always experimental prototype technology, that will never leave experimental for itself.
So are they saying that after we are out of Ill Clan in the next 5 or 10 years and a new version of the Battle Mech Manual pops up, that is why that this previously experimental tech is now in there as standard tech? Is that them covering their bases that way?
I mean, you have to cover your bases somehow, but
yeah, I'm fine with that. I just, I'm glad that they mentioned it in there.
The way I'm interpreting it is that they're not using the rules perspective, which is obvious because my rec guide mech was experimental. They're using from the perspective of the Ill Clan era lore perspective when they're making things experimental, advanced, or standard on the master unit list.
Oh, the master unit list said that one of your rec guide mechs was experimental.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying? Oh,
I went because
you got to tell us the name of the mech now. That's important.
I can't remember what it was.
Then it didn't happen.
I know it didn't. Then
there's
it didn't
only
happen.
so many rec guides out.
I know, but it's a specific one.
All right, so now we're back live. And we spent how many minutes searching for the one mech that Dustin remembered in the rec guides that was experimental?
Is the 7 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, 10 minutes max. But yes, so send your applications in because Josh is just chomping at the bit to fire me any day of the week. But it was, so I had to go back and look it up, but it was the Battle Cobra X. I was preparing for Southern Assault 2. Battle Cobra X was a spicy little nugget, 660, TMM2, not paying for a lot of armor, but experimentals are not legal in the format. So I'm like, why is the Rec Guide mech from Rec Guide, whatever, the Battle Cobra X illegal? Because I know that experimental is generally stuff from other books. And here I am It's from a lore perspective that the Battle Cobra X is experimental. It has improved heavy lasers,
improved heavy medium lasers,
which is in the Battle Mech manual. It has nothing special. It doesn't even have a special engine or gyro or stuff like that. So here's an example of my idea of what experimental is, not lining up with the master unit list. And I'm not obviously in charge of that. So, I can go pound sand, but that's where it can be a little confusing.
Well, it's not just the MUL. It's also listed as experimental in the rec guide as well. So
right.
There are multiple places that they call it experimental.
Even though all the technology is in the Battle Mech manual. So there's that's the example.
Some things are just made to be experimental, just to be like placeholders for it. This was the mech variant that we were experimenting with.
And it is the X. There are a number of other X units from the rec guides that are also experimental. Those are not the ones I was looking at or list building with, but there's the Black Lantern X, there's like a Kingfisher X, whatever. So they're in there. And I guess from the perspective of the Ill Clan era, they are experimental, even though their tech is all in the Battle Mech manual.
Yeah, everything in the new recognition guides has used Battle Mech manual technology.
Yeah,
right. But things in there are quote unquote experimental just because things had PPC capacitors in 3071. This is what I asked Dustin, have you ever used true experimental technologies, not from a lore perspective?
Yes, because I've had to go into tactical operations, I can't give you the example, so bite me, but I have gone into tactical operations and I have used the Microsoft Clip tool to clip out the rule boxes and arrange them on Microsoft Paint, as one does, into a sheet to print to bring to my pickup game, because I talked to my opponent. I was like, I'm bringing some weird stuff today. You cool with that? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to bring it. And it was weird stuff. And I had to print out the rules from 4 different books. That's an exaggeration, but I had to dig deep to
do some homework.
That's right. And we'll talk about the Skinwalker one day, and it's the true divergence. There was 2 paths, and I took one. But we'll get there when we get to the Skinwalker.
Denham.
Yes.
Have you ever put experimental stuff on the table?
Well, yes, but most of it's through my RPG games that I run because we go crazy in those. So why not?
Can you give me an example of something you've used that has experimental?
I ran the entire Unbound campaign, which has the Prometheus mech in there. It had a torso mounted cockpit. It had the experimental direct neural interface on there. It had the PPC capacitor. It had the blue shield technology
thing,
and also one of the pilots in my game owns an LAM.
Yeah, because what is it? Unbound is the king of experimental.
Right. Yeah, it was a Solaris type thing where they thought some guy was cheating because I guess he was playing with direct neural interfaces. He was
jacked in, man.
Yeah, he was totally jacked in.
Bro, and are you Pacific Rimming our BattleTech campaign?
Yeah, and then of course he went completely insane because you have to take drugs for that sort of thing, and he wasn't doing it right. And then he went crazy and broke out and just started traipsing across the city, wreaking havoc. And everybody had to get in. You would get their own versions of experimental tech and chase him down.
Man, first diagnosed case of cyberpsychosis right there.
It was fantastic. That was in college. That was, I think, 93.
Yeah, that was when Unbound came 93?
Out. Yeah.
All right. Josh, have you ever brought experimental technology?
No, I've never used experimental technology, officer.
You lie.
Lie detectors.
Off the charts, Commander.
I've ran more experimental tech than I have regular standard mechs some days, and I don't know why. I don't know why I'm gravitate towards these mythical unicorns of the rule books.
Because you don't like it when other people understand the tech you're bringing, because then they might win.
Joke's on you. I don't know what I'm doing.
I also don't know what's going on.
It makes it hard to anticipate you when you don't even know what you're going to do.
That's
true. You've brought it all. You've brought the exploding jump jets. It's kind of like a game gimmick. Like, oh, it's experiment. It blows up.
Yeah.
It damages your own dude.
That's probably the most normal thing is like me taking experimental is not I'm going to win because I'm taking undercosted BV tech or I'm doing something that's OP. It's like 9 times out of 10, this is worse for me.
We just got to sit back and wait.
Yeah, this explodes. This, takes twice as many crits if it fails a piloting roll. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
More heat, less damage, less range. Hurts your pilot twice as hard. Stuff like that.
You're just into the pain.
I'm just into the pain. I like it when the rules hurt too. But when I play Classic, I normally am going for a narrative play style. Like I will put things on the table and then try to play them narratively sometimes.
So I think now would be a good time to circle around because I kind of dodged your question a little bit. One day I was searching for new cool mechs. I was like, we're pushing into the Dark Age. I was like, got the local meta together and I was like, we're going to start learning these new rules, guys. We're going to play Dark Age games and stuff. And one of those mechs that I bought was the Skinwalker. And it has an interface cockpit. And I was like, what does an interface cockpit do? This was like one of my first interactions with like tactical operations or whatever. So I couldn't find the rules before my game. I couldn't track them down. I didn't have as much help back then. And I didn't know if I was cheating because I'm like, it has an interface cockpit. I don't know what that does. I'm looking at the record sheet. I'm like, bro, this thing doesn't have a gyro. Am I supposed to pay BV because it doesn't have a gyro? Am I supposed battle mech manual is experimental? Yeah.
I wonder if the rules writers are like, you got 60 seconds to find the rules for this interaction. If not, it gets the experimental tag. No, God, no.
Yeah, and for me, it is the whole role playing thing. Like experimentals would be a separate source book, so if it's not in the main core rule book, then I'm not worried about it being balanced because I'm not playing it on a game with another person where it's balanced. Therefore, it gets shunted to a different tier of
fun,
like a rules tier. So, yeah if I'm doing a role playing game, nothing is off the table because I don't care about BV. I don't care about balance. It's just about, this is different. This is fun. And what kind of story can we make with it?
Exactly.
If I'm playing a game for real, it's out of the Battle Mech manual because everybody has access to that. It's all in one book. Therefore, it can be balanced in quotes.
At my table, we don't use this newfangled BV. We balance by tonnage.
Even back in my day, we knew that was a problem.
Even back in his day. So that's kind of why your answer is both. Because on the one hand, for your role-playing stuff, for your narrative stuff, for making a fun, exciting, interesting role-playing game, you want the experimental to be... You want the experimentals from the perspective of the lore. Oh,
yeah, it has to be the lore because that way somebody has it and most other people don't. Therefore, it's special and it's a story arc, not a not a game aid.
Right. Josh, I feel like we have to ask you this question now.
What question would that be, Dustin?
You have to you have to qualify or define your answer to our previous question of what is experimental, because I answered it, Denham answered it, and then you answered it. And so you have to talk about why everything's experimental and why you should be able to use it all.
I don't think there's definitely outliers where I'm like, please never take that to my table, except for like a specific one-off. Let me try, weird historical battles that had weird super weapons in it. Like
right.
Mobile HPGs, like those rules are in the book. I will use those if we want to, but I gotta know ahead of time.
So it's not enough to say we're using experimentals. You want a list of experimental stuff that people are going to be bringing.
I feel like experimental in itself is like a prison sentence, and there's, good behavior, no parole. Like there's a sliding scale, and 99% of it is parole. A few of those is isolation only.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, because
risk hyper lasers. Do you guys know the rules for those? No. Do you want to? No.
I didn't even know those existed. Do you know?
Oh, I
they
did. I
exist?
just read about those last week or something. Something came up. I don't know if it was one of the books I was reading, but risk hyper lasers were mentioned, and I'm like, I have to look this up. Could I quote you the rules right now? No. I got enough information for my brain to say, okay, I got it, and that was it. I moved on.
So I feel like this is it's a little bit of a trick question for you, Josh.
Oh no.
But what is the first experimental mech you brought to a game of classic BattleTech?
I wonder
who did you play?
I don't know who I played, actually. Was it you?
Yes, it was me.
What did
Unless you played somebody else with the Super Griffin first.
I hate that the Super Griffin is my first foray into experimental because it's so vanilla. Like,
It's not, though. And I'll talk about that in a second. Sort of.
Josh, you're my example. Talk about it so I can continue on.
No, I know. Because you brought it. I feel like it was my first interaction with Josh's obsession with experimental things. I think I bought like a Griffin, and I bought the wrong sculpt, and I was like, this is so funny because this is the big difference between you and me. I literally gave you the sculpt because I was like, I hate this. I don't know what it is. It's a Super Griffin. I'm not going to use this. This doesn't fit into my paint scheme and you went and you painted the little circles, the little test, the scale lines on it, didn't you? Like a test rocket.
That wasn't me, bro. I'm gonna be honest.
No?
Bro,
Okay.
I specifically asked you before your brother went up to Iron Winds, and I was like, get me the Super Griffin.
Oh, okay. So maybe I misremember. So you got the Super Griffin from the get-go. You're like, I want this experimental.
I fell in love with that 90s Matt Plog art, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what Griffins should look like. I was like,
This isn't the Griffin with the ladder going up from its leg up into its cockpit.
no,
right?
this is not. And that was the problem, because at this point in life, Griffins did not look good. We did not have plastic Griffins.
No,
And I was like, I need a original 16 good looking mech, and I'm not taking that.
The unseen art was just bad. Just bad.
You could get I think at the time you might have only been able to get the Project Phoenix Griffin too.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm saying. The Project Phoenix unseen stuff.
Yes,
no.
yes.
Nope.
I had one and I sold it. It was in a lot of other things, but I was like, I will not miss you. Unseen Project Phoenix Super Griffin, or sorry, not Super Griffin, regular Griffin. But
Yeah.
I was not getting Super Griffin at first to, get experimental. I was like, this is a nice looking Griffin sculpt, which happens to be a slightly adjacent mech.
But if memory serves, and I'm pretty sure I'm not misremembering this part, that you did run your Griffin sculpt as a Super Griffin in a game with me.
I mean, you have to use what it is at once. And I was like, bro, it's 3028. It's close enough to 3025. No one's going to care, right?
That's right.
What's
So-
3 years?
Yeah, you brought the Griffin with the exploding jump jets and the acidic,
Corrosive double heat sinks. Yes.
double heat sinks.
The problem, so this is why it's experimental / illegal, is because those experimental double heat sinks are the non-inside engine ones. So the engine uses single heat sinks.
Oh,
and
weird.
And the structure ones use double.
Denham's like, what?
So
No, it's just like the horrors of watching somebody miscalculate heat with that. Yeah, that's where my brain goes, is having to, I've done my homework now, my homework phase. Now I have to go over and double check their homework phase because I know they're going to get it wrong.
bro, it just says at the bottom of the sheet how many heat
sinks.
get rid of.
Yeah, but if I hit you in the engine or hit a location, it's just, which one do I take off? I just got to double check. I got it.
If it's out the
Until
engine, it does 2. If it's in the engine, it does 1.
Until I can trust you to do your own math.
Yeah. And it just has improved jump jets before improved jump jets were a thing. Like, that's all that experimental is.
Way before.
Yes. Ironically, it does have jump strong.
Oh, really? On
Yes,
Alpha Strike?
'cause
That's
it is.
awesome. Yes. But it's like a slower Griffin, right? Doesn't it have like an
it's
oversized engine? Or
They dropped it from, a regular Griffin's a 5.8, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
And so
4.6.
they had, I wax poetic about this like every 20 episodes. It's like, goes to,
yes, the Super Griffin.
yeah. Josh is ranting again. Somebody get the tranquilizer.
Yes, it's the Super Griffin. Yeah, get the tranquilizer.
But that's exactly what it is. I'm like, okay, so they're improved jump jets. It's just these explode if they get crit. And I'm like, that's fine. Like these aren't weird rules. They just are other things that get around either a construction rule or their tech too ahead of its time with a drawback. Like to me, that's not what experimental should be. But also, it is exactly what experimental should be.
Right. I was going to say that's. If you look at any other war game, that's exactly that's the weird stuff.
My brother and Blake, you literally just defined what experimental is.
Did you just say experimental is not experimental?
Yeah.
It has rules that are not complex from a rules perspective in my brain. We both looked at what the rules is for direct neural interface. It is multiple pages long.
Yes.
We looked at what land air mechs are for experimental rules, and they are pages long. Yeah, almost books. Multiple revisions of books, eras of books. And then you get to, this is improved jump jets that explode. I'm like,
is it experimental?
Is that experimental? Yes. Is it on the same level?
No.
The spectrum? No.
But somebody has to group those into meaningful boxes. They have to.
Somebody has to judge dread the technology. It's like, sorry, your early clan exterminator is experimental. Why? Because those extended range medium lasers were 2 tons at that time. It's like, so it's like they don't fit construction rule, blah. And I'm like,
right,
fine.
You missed it by 6 months. You're out.
So I think I'm trying to think of like, who's the person that could benefit from listening to us run our mouths for an amount of time. And I'm thinking in this episode, we may have kind of answered the question, which is a tough question, especially if you don't know what's going on in Battletech, of what that little experimental word next to your record sheet means, or what that experimental means when you're trying to make your list for an Alpha Strike game.
I think this is also a good lead into other podcasts that we haven't done yet.
That's true. But I will also say is, for people that may have played a long time ago, like Denham, who was around at the original TRO 3025.
Hi, I'm Lore Master Denham.
Who played with experimental tech, but now that's just standard tech.
It's just standard stuff. So like everybody has it.
His brain thinks of it as experimental. And when he plays up against someone and they're like, oh yeah, I've got PPC capacitors, ferrolamellar armor, he's like, that's experimental. There's no experimental at this table.
Actually, according to this book, it's standard tech. Like, well, fine.
So how would we want to change experimental if we would want to change it? Like, does it even need to be? No, let me start that. Does experimental need to be changed at all? Does it need a revision for how it's treated with regular Battletech?
I think they're doing the best they can in the way that I would want it changed, because it's just like Dustin also touched on. I went standard tech in one book. I went advanced tech in one book. I went experimental in one book. That's what I want.
So Battle Mech Manual, good. Total Warfare, and just the TAC Ops, Interstellar Ops.
Everybody knows Total Warfare is a great book that really, really needs to be revised heavily.
It's a great book that's also garbage.
Yes.
Just reorganize.
It's an essential book. How about that? Not a great book. It's an essential book that needs heavy revision.
I feel like my simple and clean cut, because I agree. I do agree with Denham. Like there needs to be a lore role-playing perspective on experimental stuff, because that makes your games exciting for that. And I don't want to take that away from anybody. I just want a different designation. I feel like experimental and advanced and all that stuff, like from a lore perspective, from whatever era that you're playing in, needs to be a completely separate designation, because those things are on the tables for the equipment acquisition. Depending on what era you're playing, you get different letters. I've seen the charts. I've looked at them. I own campaign operations.
You like that A through F that no one actually knows about.
Mm-hmm. But there was a time when I thought intro was 3025, standard was like Total Warfare, advanced was anything that was in a battle mech manual, and experimental was anything that wasn't. And that was totally wrong. And it took me, that was a little confusing for me at first. So I just went two separate things.
And we brought you on this podcast and you're like, what's experimental? And you're like, everything not in the battle mech manual. Wrong again.
Yeah. But that's my perspective on it. And I maybe call it a rules level 1, 2, and 3. I don't know.
They started with rules level. That was the beginning of it a long time ago. Back in the 90s. Back in the 90s, it was level 1, 2, and 3.
We've circled back around. Stop the podcast.
I
didn't even have to say back in my day. Josh even knew that one.
Yep. So that's what it means to me. That's what I would change. If you put Dustin in charge, he would be like, yeah, keep all the lore stuff. Everything gets a new designation. Is it in the battle mech manual? Level 1.
So it could be both. Warfare? It could be both experimental and level 2 tournament legal at the same time.
Absolutely. Because you have level 1 would be battle mech manual. Level 2 would be total warfare, which is rolls in your combined arms, tournament legal. And then level 3 is everything else. Literally everything else.
It's not a bad idea. Like, I know that it was tried, but maybe it wasn't tried the best way it could have.
Yeah. So that's what I'd do.
What do you think, Josh? I see your eyes. I see them. You have opinions.
I do have opinions. I have a podcast. I thus must have opinion. That's how it works. I definitely would like to see experimental just either folded away and just some units that say these are for RPGs only. Like, they don't have cost. They don't like have anything like that. Like, if you're using Risk hyper lasers, you're doing it for a narrative game that doesn't need BV attached to it, doesn't need rules that even like have master unit lists, points a cost kind of things. And then you have things like, okay, you have prototype ER lasers. The construction rules are different. Like, there's no reason that it should not be allowed at like I don't want to say it shouldn't be allowed at a tournament, but yeah, there needs to be a second section of experimental and not for regular play.
Okay, correct me if I'm getting this mixed up, but Dustin says we need to have fewer boxes to put them in, and you're saying we did have more boxes to
I'm saying we can't put them all in the same prison. Not all of them are the same level of offender. Some can be allowed out to play occasionally.
So, and I'm trying to, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you're kind of saying that there are interactions on the tabletop that shouldn't be considered experimental because they don't work in funny ways.
Yeah.
But the prison is for all the stuff that has weird interactions and that don't operate normally in a normal like pickup game. Like when you're rolling into the local game store on Tuesday night, unless you arranged ahead of time, you don't bring the prison experimental because that stuff is just too whack.
Yes.
It's too fiddly.
Non-consensual. Like, you need consent to run those.
Like,
I mean, yeah.
If we're running like a 30, let's say 75 game, and I take tech that's 37.7 standard, but it's experimental like in the 30-60s, and all it is like 1 ton heavier. Well, that's experimental from a construction rules.
Right.
Like that doesn't really affect our gameplay, in my opinion. I have to, in that sentence, in my opinion, my lasers don't explode. They don't do any more damage. In fact, it's worse for me because they take up more space.
Yeah, that would work with Dustin's idea where they would be labeled as experimental because they weren't widely produced until 3077, but they're still considered level 2 for play purposes. Therefore, they are tournament legal. I
think the problem is Dustin's like, we need 3 levels, and I'm like, we need 10 levels.
10 levels. Oh man.
We need intro. We need intro.
Keep
we
it
need
simple.
Clan Invasion. We need jihad. We need all the eras have their own box, and then we have sub boxes that we put for those experimentals in between those boxes. So
it sounds like a different game that I've played before.
So Josh is like, whatever brings more experimentals into my life.
But if you take away experimental as a tag, will I still love them? Is that
no? The tag is still there. They're still experimental.
No, they did their time.
Yeah, there's just two different. Yeah, there's lore wise experimental, but game wise level 2.
See, when I hear level 2, I think tripod advanced.
I think 6 mechs. That's what I think.
Oh, look at that. I got beat out in my own faction. I don't think there's a right answer for experimentals. I do think there are some wrong answers for experimentals, though.
Yeah. It's good that we're only here to talk about it, and we're not in charge of making any decisions whatsoever.
Man, if I was in charge.
If I won that $2 billion the other day for the thing, I would be in charge because I would buy them out.
The problem is I don't even like the Super Griffin. Like, I don't love it. I don't go to bed, thinking about Super Griffins, frolicking in a field together. Like, I'm like, it's a cool looking Griffin that does cool things. It's a bad mech. Like, 4.66. Okay, what you got? A PPC, LRM-10, medium laser, small laser? Like, no.
It poisons the environment. It explodes if you hit it wrong.
Yeah, like, no, this is a bad mech. Like, I feel like I just need that out there like that. Most of these are like, I want to be able to take them. Like, there are more models for experimentals that are cool than there are for regular mechs that aren't.
Do you parse through the XTRO series of books?
I look for art in those and then buy the models that look nice.
So you're this cover looks awesome. I'm going to read this book.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am a judge book by cover person.
Okay, to be totally honest, if I started to get into BattleTech during the Project Phoenix artwork, I never would have played this game. Yeah, the art for the battle mechs really captured my attention. So that is what drew me in. So I do understand that. I do get that. And I got so hooked on it because of the game I played after looking at the art that it stayed with me for the rest of my life. That could have gone an entirely different way.
You got lucky.
I got lucky. So I think we kind of have it. We have all the convoluted opinions on what experimental is and is not.
Some things make sense. Some things are arbitrary. Some things are purely lore. It's really just however the person who was made the tech for whatever purpose it is, whether it was for a mech model, a RPG, source material, or they wanted to spice up their book.
I mean, I think we proved it in our intro discussion about this. Like, it's confusing.
Yeah.
When you say experimental, it means different things to different people. It's just confusing.
Only confused. Denham, have you learned about it? All you want for experimentals today?
I'm totally experimental out for today, but I'm sure I'll swing back around to it at some point because there's a lot of cool experimental stuff out there.
Dustin, what about you?
Yep, it's all heresy. Battle Mech Manual only.
I mean,
experimental.
It's very nice to go to one book.
Dustin's curled up in the corner. I see him over there. He's done.
Yep. No more experimentals, please. Just one book. Combined arms, fine. 2 books. That's it, max.
But yeah, I think that's it for today, though. Thanks for coming on, guys, and talking all about experimental tech and what experimental means to you. Check us out next time on the Mechbay podcast, where we crack open the new Alpha Strike box set and then talk hypothetical BattleTech 2.0. Until next time, remember, through salvage, all things are possible.